Welcome to the Startup Grind.
Okay, so those of you who have not been to an event before, you do not know this. Those of you who do can hopefully help, but we just have a tradition as we welcome our speakers that everyone gets on their feet and gives a nice round of applause as they come out. So I'm not going to make you practice like Derek does if you've been to an event before, but too bad it's on video, it's going to be very upsetting. But as I introduce tonight's speakers, just get up, give a nice round of applause. And as you all know, we have Perry Gorman, the CEO and founder of Archive.ly, interviewing Adora Cheung from Homejoy. Welcome them.
I usually like to, so Adora, in case anybody doesn't know, she's the founder and CEO of Homejoy, which is revolutionizing home cleaning, home services. I usually like to start with how people got into, early years and how you ended up getting into tech and being interested in this career path. But take us back to when you were younger and the kinds of things that were in your life that allowed you to even think about a path like this.
Sure. So I grew up with a fairly normal childhood, I think. The only thing different about maybe an average child and myself was my parents would move every couple of years. So I was born in upstate New York, and I basically lived in every state up and down the East Coast. And I honestly did not know anything about startups until I actually went to grad school. So I graduated high school from in South Carolina, and then I went to the state school there. It's called Clemson, and I majored in computer science there. And that's when I really learned coding and how cool it could be.
What brought you to computer science, though? Because there's a huge conversation about women actually even enrolling in computer science, and what were the influences that actually
So both my parents are engineers. My mom is actually a programmer herself. She used to work at IBM, and after a few years she actually quit and became a house mom, or housewife, I guess. But yeah, she would help me with my high school programming assignments and stuff like that. And so that's how I really got into it. My dad really encouraged all of his kids to major in engineering. So kind of we were pushed in that direction, and that's how I kind of fell into it.
Got it. Okay, so then we can fast forward. So you went to school for computer science.
Yes.
And then?
Yes, so then I decided I didn't want a real job. So I went to grad school. I was getting my PhD in economics at the University of Rochester, which is in upstate New York, close to where I was born.
Freezing.
It's freezing. The sun never comes out. After a few years, I just wanted to leave due to sadness.
Well, they say, depression rates are higher.
Yeah, I can imagine. A lot of drinking to be done too. So I did that for 3.5 years, and just one day, a friend of mine, his name's Adam, he knew that I was interested in startups because I kind of just started reading about it, and he knew I needed a program, and he was doing his own startup himself, but he needed a programmer, so he just showed up, literally, from Atlanta, or he was going to law school in Tennessee or something, and just showed up to Rochester, New York, and said, I need help programming something. And so we just started working on his startup, and that's when I really got into it and just stopped going to classes, didn't work on any of my papers. I was pretty much going to flunk out. And so the only thing saving me was actually part of the research that we were doing as a group with my class involved a lot of programming, MATLAB programming in particular. And so I was saved because people needed my help in programming. And that's the only way I kind of survived in grad school, was because I had that skill. But anyway, so we started.
What was the startup that you were working on with him?
Yeah, so it was a map. We were creating some mapping software so that when you were traveling, and it would just pop up coupons as you were traveling on the road. That's what it was. And at that point, Google
Geo-deals.
Yeah, exactly. And we called it, I forgot what we called it, something horrible. But it didn't really take off. And I think we were just very naive and didn't really understand how startups worked. And so it kind of just like went away. And he decided to get another job, and I decided I wanted to actually learn what a startup was and how it actually was run. And so my 4th year in grad school, I just got the first job I could get out in San Francisco, which was at a startup called Slide, which, if any of you guys are familiar with the early days of the Facebook platform, it was one of the top application developers of like Top Friends, Super Poke, Super Pets, stuff like that. And so
I love Super.
there you go.
Like that, you know, when you could throw sheep at people.
Yes, yeah, that was us.
Yeah.
So
That ages me, right?
Yes, and me too. But yeah, that was in, I guess, 2007? It's a long time ago.
What do you think you learned from the first startup that you knew that you didn't think you knew what you were doing? like what were the things that when you look back at the first one, not Slide, but
Right.
but in school, what do you think the biggest mistakes were, but that were also good learning lessons from that?
I think we didn't, that's a question. We weren't working, I made this mistake over and over again, but we just weren't working on a problem we were really passionate about. And so when it got tough, we just kind of like started working on some other random idea. And would always just kind of gravitate back to this one because it was kind of just the original idea and we had a lot of code already committed to it. But yeah, I think it wasn't a problem we had. We weren't like driving around trying to search for coupons ourselves.
Got it.
We just thought people would want us.
Got it.
Turns out nobody is.
So going back to Slide, so you were at Slide, you were in product management or?
Yeah, so I was running product for all the Facebook applications that we were creating.
And then you went off to do your own thing.
Yeah, so what happened was the platform kind of evolved from these like distribution type applications to more social gaming type stuff. So that's when Zynga became huge and all the other companies. And so I was working on those games for a while, but I don't like games. And I didn't.
Come on, you're not an avid Farmville player.
Yeah, no. I know how to build those well, but I don't like playing them myself. And so it just became very, kind of didn't feel purposeful. And so I decided, I had spent I was there for 1.5 years, and I thought, okay, I've learned enough. I want to go do my own thing. And so I just left and tried to do my own thing.
So that's when you started with your brother.
Yes. So at that almost exact moment, my brother, his name is Aaron, he had graduated from MIT, and he was working on his own startup at the time, but his co-founders kind of just ditched the idea and went off to get real jobs at other companies. And so he was just crashing at my place in San Francisco. And I think we're just very coincidentally looking for co-founders at the exact same time. And so we just looked at each other and was like, okay, let's try it.
What is it like to co-found a company with your brother? So people say a lot of different things about, oh, you should be careful, and people don't like husband-wife teams, and people don't like people who've been really good friends for a long time, because it's not necessarily, but what's it been like?
It's been pretty easygoing, honestly. He and I are very similar people, and our skills complement each other very well.
That's great.
Yeah, he's a very hard worker, and I think so am I, and so I think we just kind of work well together.
That's good. It could go either way.
Yeah, I mean, yes. It's not that we never got into fights. We certainly did, but we were able to resolve it very quickly. At the end of the day, we have to speak to our higher power, which is our mom. And so,
I love that.
But we have another brother and another sister, and we know we can't work with them. And so it wasn't just like, it just happened I could work with Aaron, not the other ones.
Yeah. Just saving that on film for posterity.
Yes.
So So when you guys first started, did you start working on an idea first and then apply to YC? But YC was early in your journey with him.
Yeah, so we started in 2009, and then we started working on this idea called, what we called at that point, Pathjoy. And it was essentially, it's kind of like Homejoy, honestly. It's a platform that connects people with life coaches and therapists. And kind of the idea spurred from the fact that I just wanted to work on something that would make people happy. And I think the first thing we thought of was, we think therapists and life coaches in general make people happier. So yeah, we were trying to create essentially a video platform.
And this was 2009, right?
2009.
This was like the explosion of life coaching.
Was it?
I think so. I feel like there was a period of time in which there were just everyone, there were all these new life coaches.
Yeah. But yeah, we worked on that for a while, and that's actually what we applied to YC with.
Okay. What was that process like? Especially back then. I mean, it's obviously changed maybe a little bit now, but
I don't think it's changed too much, other than the fact that YC's even more well known now. There's lots more people interviewing and applying. It was very straightforward. We actually decided last minute to do it. We put together applications, sent it in, and then we, I think somewhere in between the actual in-person interview and the application, we talked with one of the partners, or used to be a partner there, his name's Harj, and we Skyped with them, did a short 10-15 minute interview. And then afterwards, we got the email that said, hey, congratulations, come to Mountain View for an interview. And so we went and interviewed. It was 10 minutes. Don't ask me what happened during those 10 minutes. I do not remember. But they liked it, and we were actually sitting in Red Rock Cafe, or I think it's Red Rock Cafe, coffee shop, or something like that. It's a really popular coffee place in Mountain View, and that's when we got the call from PG. Who said, hey, do you want to join Y Combinator? We're like, yeah, of course. And so yeah, that's how we got in.
So how have you felt, we'll do a little plug for Y Combinator, how have you felt Y Combinator has helped you as a founder, but as a company?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think, the program itself was a good way to time box yourself. And like in 3 months, you must get something out the door. And so it was very motivating. And there was I think our class had about 35, 36 companies. So it was like 36 other companies did the exact same thing. But I think afterwards is where it's really impactful. That is, there is this network of alumni who are just super, it's weird. It's this huge network of just super helpful people. And you just email them, you email anybody really, and they'll like meet with you and help you out. And so for us, that was the most helpful thing I think that we got out of YC.
Yeah.
I think when we're fundraising and stuff like that, PG is obviously an expert at these things, and he was very supportive when we went out to fundraise and helped us a lot with that.
But so you had a little bit of a journey between YC and actually fundraising and getting to Homejoy, which I think is a really good story. I mean, I saw it partially when you spoke at the recent Women's Founders Conference.
Yeah.
But I like your story because I feel like a lot of people don't talk about the difficulties and all of the times when you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing, I don't even know if I like this, or I don't know if I'm going to last another day. And I felt like you have a lot of tones of that in your story.
Yep.
And I'd love it if you could share with these guys.
So it's a long story, but I'll try to keep it short. So yeah, I think out of YC we were able to actually raise $150K from Josh Koppelman at First Round Capital. I don't know what he saw to give us that money, but that was literally my first pitch was to him, and all of a sudden I had $150K. And after that, I was like, this is so easy. I'm 1 for 1, I'm batting 100. And then demo day happened, and then we started pitching our idea, which actually had morphed from Pathjoy, the platform for life coaches, to more of a demand media for experts, which is basically my brother, he's an expert at this SEO and SEM, user acquisition stuff, and so he had built a tool which basically popped out SEO keywords that experts could write about to bring traffic to their profile. So we got a bunch of experts to essentially write content for us for free, kind of the demand media type style. And so we're basically like a better demand media, but we didn't have to pay anything for the content. So anyway, that's what we were sort of pitching at that point.
Did you raise money on Pathjoy and then pivot into that before you?
No, we raised money on this.
Okay, you raised money on this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we got, first Josh put in some money, and then I lined up like at least 40 meetings, and everyone was a no, 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 no. So it was like at the first one, and then no's for the rest of the time.
What were the main reasons for no?
I think it was just didn't have traction. It was basically that. Traction, didn't really think the idea was that great. Demand media was kind of already doing that. And at that time, I think their S-Wing had come out, and it looked like not such like a great company. And so that didn't help either. But yeah, there was a number of factors. And at the end of the day, I think it was correct that no one put in money, because I think if we had raised too much money, we would have just stuck on that idea.
Yeah.
And the idea was ultimately just not a good one. So yeah, we raised 150K, like you said, and we just went through, I counted the days, it's literally over 1,000 days of just what I literally call the dark ages. And, and the reason is because after we raised that, it just went all downhill. Like they tell you, it's very, when you run a startup, it goes like this.
Yeah.
For us, it went like this, and then just like that.
Yeah. But at least you went all the way down.
Yeah, I went all the way down. So I can, we built a dozen of ideas, so I don't have the time to tell you all of them. But kind of the highlights are, we built also a marketplace for paid answers. So it's kind of like a paid Quora. Quora is very popular here anyway in Silicon Valley, so you probably know what that is. And at some point, I was also building more content sites, basically soul-sucking ideas in the sense that we were doing it just to make a little bit of money versus like...
So you got lost on the way down.
Yeah, exactly. I think at some point we had no money, we had taken out credit cards, and we were just needed to make money, and we knew we couldn't raise because we didn't have a good idea, and so we just went down this road of...
We need to make money.
Yeah, how do I make a few bucks so
Yeah.
I can continue on with, coming up with something we can,
What did Mom say at this point? Of her 2 children that had gone through college.
I think Mom was like, what have you done with my star child? My brother, Aaron. And yeah, so it's funny because I think they're very supportive. But it got to the point where I just kind of ignored calls and I was like, I can't deal with this. And it was funny because when we raised a lot of money and stuff like that, I actually was still in that mode of like, I feel like this is still kind of not successful yet. So they actually found out about our big raise from through just I think Googling or something.
Oh my.
Yeah, they just read it. They're like, oh, you didn't tell us. Congratulations.
By the way.
Yeah.
But let's rewind a little bit because your Homejoy story is actually awesome.
Yeah.
And how many people know her story? A couple. Okay, so it's definitely worth telling.
Yeah.
So take us back to how you actually came upon this problem, because one of the things you mentioned was that you've been through a lot of problems that weren't yours.
Yep.
And kind of how does a founder arrive at something that is going to give you enough steam to get through the
yeah, it's very coincidental is what I find. So it was 2012. We had run through a bunch of these ideas. We had run out of money, like I said. It was like I took out a credit card and actually got $5,000 on it, and I was like, oh my god, I can just get a bunch of these. And then I took a second one out, and it was $500, and I was like, oh, I'm not gonna get a third one. And so, yeah, but we were sitting in Aaron's apartment in Mountain View, and at the time we were working on content sites, and I was literally creating, we couldn't even afford to hire writers, and so one of our content sites was like a gossip news site. It was called hotmamagossip.com. I kid you not, I was rewriting gossip news.
Hotmamagossip.com.
Yes. Yeah.
I didn't know that was available.
Yeah, well, I think we lost a domain actually, so someone has it. But we had a number of these sites, and so I was rewriting gossip news half the time. and Aaron was working on something else. I think he was just preparing to like go to Vegas and put the rest of our money onto like a poker game or something to get some more money. So he was like practicing that stuff. And
Preparing for the end.
yeah, exactly. And so yeah, we're working on his apartment, and his apartment was just like very. There's no better way to say than it was just gross. Like there was just never cleaned it up. His bathroom was pretty bad. The running joke is like,
right?
yeah, I mean it's typical bachelor pad, but like maybe times 2 worse than what you would think it is. But yeah, like I wouldn't use his restroom. I would literally. He lived by the Caltrain, so there's a set of apartments there. It's actually really cheap to live in, by the way, but there's cockroaches and stuff like that, so it's not the best place to live, but it's cheap. And I would literally.
It's like $2,000 a month.
Yeah. No, it was actually like $900 a month.
Okay.
It was really good. But you get what you pay for, right?
Yeah.
So I would actually walk 3 blocks to Castle Street, and there's like a few like a bakery there, and I would literally buy a coffee or like a sandwich there, buy it so that I could actually use the restroom there, because I just refused to use his bathroom. Anyway, he finally decided one day to, he's like, okay, I'm gonna finally clean my place. And instead of me doing it, because he felt that his time was better used to just coding, we're both engineers and we're just coding all day or writing gossip news. And so he tried to go find a cleaner essentially. And the problem he ran into was, definitely if you want to find a cleaner, yes, you can get referrals from friends and stuff like that, but if you don't have any friends who don't have referrals to give to you, you're kind of stuck in this 2 routes. One is you go to an agency, like a national agency, like a Mary Maids or Molly Maids, and yeah, you can get someone who's, that you probably can trust and who actually knows how to, they've been trained to clean, but you pay a huge premium for that. You can be paying anywhere from $40 to $50 an hour, which for us, we would have to like, take out another credit card just to get a cleaning, so that was out of our range. Or you can go, the second one is you can go to an online classified site, which is like Craigslist in the US.
And you have no idea who's coming to your house.
Exactly, yeah. You hear all these like stories about axe murderers showing up. So we're like, okay, let's not do that. But then he came to me and he's like, hey, I think there's actually a problem here because there's people like me who want cleanings. We're willing to pay the price that you can find on Craigslist. But, we need to figure out a way just to filter out, the good and the bad from people just trying to market themselves without any background checks or anything. And so we decided, or I decided at that point, I was like, well, I'm doing this other thing here, this content thing here, or I can just go look into the house cleaning thing. And I just decided, okay, I'm just going to look into the house cleaning thing.
Gossip just
wasn't going to I mean, it's like, compare the 2 things. Neither seemed, better than the other. So we looked into house cleaning. We did more research into it, and what we found was that these agencies, what was interesting about them is they were charging a lot for it, but they were paying the cleaning professionals close to minimum wage, like $8 to $10 an hour. So there's these margins, and you're kind of wondering, they got to be milking the customer, or they're screwing around with the cleaner, or something else is going on there. So when we did more research into it, what it turns out is that they're not really doing either. It's just that those margins are baked into inefficient operations. And so what I mean by that is, to acquire the customer, they might have a sales rep actually show up to the house and spend an hour in the house or something, or half an hour in the house just trying to sell the customer. And so there are costs there. Or when they're trying to schedule all the cleanings for the day or for the rest of the week, they're actually in an Excel sheet trying to optimize everything, and that takes many hours if a human is doing it. But if you just put it through, like a program, it takes less than a second, if not less than a millisecond to do. You've got a really good algorithm going. So anyway, we just found a lot of these things, and so what we decided to do was, okay, we're going to try to build this platform that essentially removes the pain point, alleviates the problem that Aaron had, and the platform which would essentially consolidate the gray market of these these independent cleaners who needed the help of getting background checks and like, getting a stamp of approval, essentially.
Got it.
And
Training. So wait, you got some hands-on training.
Yeah. So what happened was we built the site overnight.
Okay.
And got some customers in the door, and didn't get any cleaners. But typically these marketplaces or platforms, you have a chicken and egg problem.
Yeah.
And we just completely solved it by getting the customers and doing the cleanings ourselves. So the first couple of cleanings we went to, we just had no clue what we were doing. And I remember the first one. The first one was this customer named Joe. I should actually email him and be like, you were the start of something very huge. But it was labeled as a post-construction clean, which if you don't know about cleaning, it's actually a very clean place in general. It's not gross. Like, no one has lived in the place yet. It's just been under construction. But what happens is that it's very dusty. It's just like people are painting and then they're sanding and stuff like that. So it's just layers and layers of dust that you have to clean up. And anyway, long story short,
Little Windex doesn't really just
Windex
cut it.
doesn't help. You just wipe it and out comes more dust and just reappears and keep going. And so we spent many hours cleaning up dust, and we spent probably more on supplies than we actually did earning money for the cleaning. But anyway, that's just a good example of we just didn't know anything about cleaning, professional cleaning itself. And so we thought, okay, we should learn how to clean. So our first step was, let's just buy books. So we went on Amazon and bought books about cleaning. And so these books are by people like Martha Stewart, right? They're just about it's like casual cleaning for moms and dads and stuff like that. And it's not very, they don't speak to how you clean professionally, which is much different. So that didn't help. And so the second thing we thought of was, okay, we just should get trained at an actual cleaning company that just knows how to train people to become good cleaners. And so we had to decide, like, was it going to be me or Aaron? And Aaron at that point was working on customer service and operations. And I was kind of the engineer on the project. And since we didn't have that many customers in the door and no cleaners on the platform, it just came down to me to go do it because I had nothing else to code really at the end of the day. And so I went to go get a job at a cleaning company. And so if you, at that point...
Did you tell your mom?
No, she still doesn't know about it.
Oh, okay.
I guess
Until she
now.
sees this video.
Yeah, so, hi Mom. So I went to go get a job as a cleaner, and it was actually quite a difficult process because at the time, I was applying. First, I was living in Mountain View still. I went to like Mountain View, Sunnyvale, like all these local cleaning companies, and just showed up and tried applying. And they basically said no because I had no experience. And then I decided to just apply to online to a bunch of these national companies and just submit my application or submit my resume that way. And so I submitted to hundreds and hundreds of places. And I eventually got phone interviews from a place in Long Island, New York, and a place in like Oklahoma or Kansas or something. And I did the phone interviews and they said, oh yeah, you should come out. And they didn't know I didn't live there because I just used fake addresses at that point. And I actually thought, I had such a hard time getting an actual cleaning job in the San Francisco area that I actually almost thought about going out to Kansas or Long Island, New York and cleaning for a few weeks at least so I could actually learn how the business worked. But I got saved because I got a call from the San Francisco office of a cleaning company there, and I went through the whole shebang. And then it came down to the actual interview itself. And the interview was very nerve-wracking for me because on my application I actually literally put I went to college. I didn't put I almost got my PhD, but if you had Googled my name, you could see that I actually went to Clemson University. So I put that down. And so part of the interview was, you have a college degree. Why do you need this job? And the first thing I came up with was, my brother is sick. He has, he's very sick, and he's getting better now. But I just have to spend all this time helping him with his sickness. And so Aaron just had a sickness that I just made up. But anyway, so that's how I convinced them to give me a job. Was
You guilted them into it.
I guilted them into it. But yeah, so I got the job and I was able to start right away. And I learned how cleaning
Did
actually
they train
works.
you?
They actually trained me. So the person who was training me didn't speak English. So it was a lot of like pointing and like, you're doing it wrong like that. And so it wasn't the most efficient training in the world, but I learned how to clean. And it's not to say I'm actually a good cleaner at this, like I'm not like a consistent 5-star cleaner, but I did learn a lot about, you know, the tools and solutions and things that professional cleaners use, you know, how you manage a house when you're cleaning, down to how the operations actually work at an old school cleaning company.
I give you major kudos for that kind of hands-on, like kind of getting in there and learning that like that. I mean, it's actually really incredible. So from taking that, how did you then start to accelerate?
Yeah, so from there, so after a few weeks I just quit because what I've been doing was, we were living in Mountain View and this is in San Francisco, and if during traffic, rush hour, it's actually like an hour and a half just to get back and forth. And so it became slightly exhausting because I would just go work, at 7 o'clock I'd go work, come back to Mountain View, take a shower, of course, and then kind of work on the site. And then at 2 or 3 in the morning, I would actually literally drive back up because then I would actually miss the rush hour traffic around 6 o'clock. And then I just like nap in my car right by the cleaning company, right by the McDonald's there actually. So there's like a McDonald's on 3rd and like 3rd and something.
Oh, in like Townsend.
That one. Yeah. And I would take a nap there, then go in, like wash my face, brush my teeth, and then go clean, and then just do that trip again. And that was, and by the way, do not suggest ever doing that. It's, for some reason I thought that was the best way to hack the rush hour traffic at that time. But yeah, that became very exhausting, so I quit. And still never got my paycheck, but anyway, that's another story. And
other operational issues.
Yeah, exactly. And so I quit the job, and then we decided we were getting more customers in the door. Like people were actually understanding the service that we're providing, and we're getting cleaners in the door as well. And so we were able to start building the service. And it was just like a little by little by little thing because we didn't have that much money either, and so we couldn't spend that much money, on customer acquisition or cleaner acquisition.
This was really organic.
It was extremely organic. We would we would hand out flyers during in Mountain View, there's a Castro Street Fair during the summertime. So we'd hand out flyers. We would convince a lot of friends to use us and their friends and so on and so forth.
And how long was that period? Like really the period of you figuring out what the problem was, going through the training, and this slow growth.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of founders have this idea that it just kind of happens overnight too.
Yeah. No, it definitely doesn't. I think, we actually almost died too, right? So we started in end of June, early July, and it started taking off. It actually took maybe 2 or 3 months for it to start taking off. And the turning point almost was actually just a month after we started though. So I quit this job, ran out of money, and we almost had to shut down because we had nothing.
Yeah.
We didn't have enough customers. And so I had to actually run around and try to find essentially 25K so we could keep going with operations and move it to San Francisco because we knew in San Francisco it would really take off.
Yeah.
And so I was able to convince my former boss at Slide Max, Adora Cheung, to give us 25K, and Paul Graham also put in 25K. So those two guys literally, like when you talk about real angel investors, they literally saved our business because we would have died without that money. So we got that investment and were able to move the operations in August, September time, actually closer to September, into San Francisco. In San Francisco, we officially launched it in October on TechCrunch, I think.
There must have been a moment in there where you thought, like, should we even do this? Like,
Yeah.
because I know that place.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And like, what was it that made you believe in this, having worked on all of these other ideas?
Yeah.
Like, what was it that made you say, we're gonna push on this one?
Yeah, I think it was because Aaron had the problem and he knew like he would actually use this product. And I think the more and more we spoke to people, just like take any random person on the street and you ask them, would you get a professional cleaning for $20 an hour, which was the price point at that time? And
Yes.
they would say, yes, of course I would. And then you ask them, well, why don't you? And then they would be like, I don't know even where to start.
Right.
And so I think that inherently just drove us because we knew if they just knew about us,
Okay.
we would have lots of demand for it.
Okay. So you moved up to San Francisco, got it moving.
Yes.
Things started accelerating.
Yes.
Take us through your fundraising process.
Sure. So we launched essentially in October in San Francisco. Things just started taking, after the TechCrunch launch, it just started taking off. And we got very much constrained because it was still my brother and I at that time.
Yeah.
So we were doing customer service, operations, engineering, everything. And we knew we needed to raise money at some point if we were going to keep growing. We needed to hire people, mostly in customer service and operations. And so we just went around and started raising. This is where actually YC comes into place. I went to PG and said, I need help raising. And he introduced me to several people, and we were able to quickly put together a round of it was like 1.7 million. And that was because things were it was just like really great traction.
You could show the growth, right?
Yeah.
Did it help that companies like TaskRabbit and, Airbnb, you guys were kind of raising money similarly at the sharing economy. You guys are kind of clumped into that space.
We are.
But you're not really.
Not in the sense that I think most people think about sharing economy.
Yeah.
But in terms of like utilizing people's times, like there are a lot of people who work part-time with us, for example, and we just are able to unlock the work opportunities in the home.
Got it.
And so therefore they can work with us. It's very flexible work. That's, I guess, maybe the commonality.
And so do you feel like, how much do you feel like you've been able to impact people's lives, like the people that work for you?
Yeah, so I think the most passionate thing about working on this for me is the fact that we have thousands of cleaning professionals on our platform today, and a large part of them we're helping support their families and help them get flexible work that they couldn't otherwise get. So by that I mean we have a lot of, for example, moms on our platform, new moms who can't get full-time jobs because they have to pick up their kids and they have, there's just other things that they need to do.
I actually used your service recently.
There you go.
And I had a cleaner who had an 8-month-old baby.
Yeah.
And so I can definitely see how it made it easier for her to actually be able to do something like that.
Yep, exactly. And and so there are a lot of great stories of people we've helped along the way. I think the one I like is, there was this guy, and he actually was from Chicago and he moved here, and he had actually a full scholarship to play basketball, but he got injured, and then he was just accumulating all these student loans, and he came out here and just happened to know how to clean. He cleaned in some previous life, and he got work from the platform, and now he's able to pay off his loans. He just moved his little brother out here, and is helping him get back on his feet and stuff like that.
So that just will kind of lead into the Homejoy Foundation from that, and that's mostly helping veterans.
Yeah, so the foundation is, for those who know, we launched a foundation March. We started in March of last year, and so it's about a year old at this point. And the purpose of it is supposed to be aligned very closely to the mission of our company, which is happy homes. But all we want is people to have happier homes, whether it's we're helping them clean it, or we're helping them stabilize and give support by by providing work. And so the foundation was meant as sort of this extension of this mission. And so we launched it with the focus of helping veterans, in particular families of veterans who, might have, we've helped teenagers who've lost a parent to war or, things like that. And so we do grant cycles. But I think what we've kind of morphed it into at this point is at Homejoy we have this idea of, everyone's committed to the social mission of our company, and so they volunteer at least 1% of the time. And it kind of started off.
I think that's great.
Yeah, and it's part of
your culture.
It's part of the culture is volunteerism, and leadership is all bought into it, and they give people time off to do these things. So the foundation just works with other nonprofits to create these projects, and so that we can use the talents at Homejoy. Because at Homejoy we have actually over 100 employees now.
Yeah.
And so there's anywhere from coders to people in sales to people in marketing, people in PR who can just help with other nonprofits.
That's great. Good for you. So you raised another big round, and so what are the plans now? Like, is this for expansion, like location?
Yeah, some
global takeover.
Yeah, world domination. That's cool for everyone, right? Yeah, we are expanding very rapidly. We just launched in London.
Great.
And so we're doing a European expansion there, and it's just hiring lots of great, talented people to help us spread our mission everywhere. And we're hiring engineers, data scientists. Everyone.
Data science. What is the data science that you're going to be looking at with Homejoy?
Yeah. So the data.
And then we're going to close it out for questions.
Yeah. So you think about the home and all the things you can do in the home, and there's lots of data you can collect about it. And so with cleaning, just to give an example with cleaning, we can provide an experience, many types of experiences at the home. And so we like to do a lot of experiments. And so it's things as simple as, leaving chocolates on the pillow to, a certain scent.
I like this sticker on the toilet paper.
And the sticker on the toilet paper.
That is
right.
really good.
Yeah. And so
I just like these things, yeah.
we'll do more of that. And so there's all these experiments we run, and so the data scientists help create these experiments and run the analysis on that kind of stuff. And over time, we have lots of optimization problems, scheduling problems. Service providers just traveling everywhere and trying to figure out what the optimal schedule is. And so there's a lot of work here.
Well, thank you. I definitely want to leave a little bit of time for the audience to ask you a couple questions. Does anyone have anything that they'd like to ask? We've got a couple. All right, let's do this. I'm going to give you blue and a blue shirt.
Hi, my name is Corey. I'm a design student from Stanford. So before the talk, I actually signed up trying to become a cleaner. So I went through the quiz.
Okay.
But I didn't pass through. I received an email yesterday saying, despite the really impressive qualification, we couldn't move you through. It's just really interesting for me. So
we are hard engineers, so
just looking at
yeah.
see, what are the requirements that quiz asks, is it easier to clean the dust when it's wet or dry or that kind of thing? So I'm just wondering, when you first started acquiring cleaners, was the problem different? Did you, are you still doing this screening? Were you doing the screening when you were getting your first 100 cleaners, and how was that process different? Was it hard?
Yeah.
And just the acquisition problems, and also how are you guys doing it right now at this stage? Are you doing a more formal way? Do you arrange interviews, and how does that happen?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Did everyone hear that?
So, in terms of when we started, it was literally me just interviewing people and just getting a guess of if they could clean or not. And that was it. Over time, we developed a system of test cleans. So actually, we do the phone interview and the in-person interview, and then we'd actually show up to a house that was dirty and would see if they could actually clean as well. And we still do that to this day. We believe that there's really no substitute for in-person interviewing and test cleans. So how has that improved over time? So as you noticed, there's an online application now we've learned, and this speaks to what our data science team can do, is we know that there's certain questions we can ask up front that can kind of predict whether you would be a good or bad cleaning professional on our platform. And so those are the types of questions that you answered. And unfortunately,
You would be a bad
you would-
cleaner.
Yeah, you would not be a good cleaner.
So what happened to people who sort of didn't meet the standard? Have you guys fired anyone, or clients running into trouble, or how do you deal with that? Because I
Sure.
saw a question, if you break a glass of a client, you might want to contact Homejoy. And
Yeah.
does that happen? Was it like frustrating at the beginning?
Yeah, so one of the things about Homejoy is that, trust means a lot to our customers. And we bring that across through not just the background checks and the interviews and all these things, but, we also provide, in the US we have, a really big, we have insurance and bonding as well, which covers, the accidents. So yeah, things happen, and but we make sure that, we cover everything. And also, one of the key things is that the cleaning professionals on our platform have to maintain a certain level of customer satisfaction ratings. And so if they dip below that, or they don't show up on time or stuff like that, we unfortunately have to release release access to the platform for them. But yeah, so we do have to do that.
Thank you.
I think I saw a hand up here. Yeah.
So I'm Heidi. I have a question. I'm from Sweden, and when I came here, I realized everybody's always stuck in traffic.
Yep.
Have you worked out an optimization system or something? How do you get the local cleaners to clean locally, or how do you work that problem?
Yeah, so it's an engineering problem at the end of the day, right? You have thousands of cleaners, and they tell you all their different schedules and all the areas that they want to work or they don't want to work. And then you have all the clients, and then you just have to match them together. And so it's really just an optimization problem. It's a very hard optimization problem, but that's a lot of what we do.
Where are you going to in Europe?
We're just in London right now, and then we'll think of all the major cities in Europe. We'll probably be there.
Two more. You guys saw your hand up earlier.
Hi, I'm Nirmesh. I work at Google. So my question is that once you had the idea for Homejoy, one night when you guys figured out you had a problem you might want to solve, and you hacked up the site overnight, then what's the next thing you did? How did you initially get your customers? Did you email a bunch of friends? Did you tap into your YC network? How were the first few customers? How did you get them? And once you got them, you had this problem you told that you initially didn't have any cleaners, so you had to clean yourself. So how did you make sure the first few customers were satisfied and the word spread positively about your startup?
Yeah, so I can't say the first couple customers were satisfied, but we got better over time. We got the first few customers through just handing out flyers and stuff like that. Just we're on this, literally Aaron's apartment was right on Castle Street in Mountain View. You're from Google, so there's lots of fairs there, and we just got people to sign up. It's actually funny because the first time we did the flyers things, everyone just ignored us. They're like, who are these kids? Just they can't be cleaners. There was one day where we started getting signups was we dragged out a laptop with us, and on top of that, it was super hot that day. And so we decided, okay, we need to get people to come to us. And so we just got a bunch of waters and just stood out there and was giving out waters. And we would just guilt trip people into essentially signing up for cleaning services. So that was how we got our first bulk of customers. And then after that, it was lots of friends and family too. Mostly friends.
You guilted them too.
Yeah, I think that was easier to guilt them.
All right, one more.
Hi there, my name is Aaron Gutman. I work in mobile app development. And I'm just wondering, I was looking at your site on mobile and looked in the App Store and noticed you didn't really have much of a mobile presence in the App Store, and the site wasn't quite as usable on mobile as I would have liked. I was wondering, what are your plans for mobile and moving forward?
Yeah, so that's one of the many things that I wish we had. And so we're certainly going to have an iPhone app at some point for customers anyway. And it's definitely in the pipeline for this year. Don't have an exact date. But we are also hiring for these things, so if you're interested.
I think
We're hiring mobile engineers too.
Raise
So.
his hand.
Yes. But yeah, we should, I think this day and age is definitely something you should have. I think it's something we should have.
I think TaskRabbit app, that's a pretty good.
Yeah,
mobile
yeah,
platform.
these are good.
Okay, thank you so much. Do you want to say anything else to close?
No, thank you for coming. We're hiring, like I said.
Spread the word.
Yes, please spread the word.
All right, thanks everyone. We really appreciate it.